The hunter becomes the hunted. The silence in the Kepler research station felt different tonight. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the observation deck's reinforced viewport, watching the endless expanse of stars beyond. Something was wrong. After 3 years studying the most dangerous alien life forms on the galaxy's edge, she had developed an instinct for danger that never failed her. The station hung in the void like a metallic spider, its 8 research arms extending into the darkness. Each arm housed laboratories dedicated to studying creatures that other species wouldn't dare approach. Elena's specialty was xenobiology, but her background told a different story. Before she became a scientist, she had been Staff Sergeant Elena Vasquez of the Terran Marine Corps, specializing in hostile environment warfare and tactical engineering. Dr. Vasquez, we're receiving an unusual signal pattern, called Marcus Chen from the communications console. The young technician's voice carried a tremor that made Elena's instincts sharpen. It's not following any known protocol. Elena moved to his station, her boots echoing in the empty corridor. The night shift was always skeletal, just 5 crew members monitoring the automated systems. Perfect hunting conditions, she thought. Grimly, though, she wasn't sure why that phrase had entered her mind. The signal displayed on Marcus's screen was unlike anything she had seen. It pulsed in complex patterns, almost organic in its rhythm. But it wasn't the signal itself that made her blood run cold. It was the recognition dawning in her enhanced memory banks. She had seen something similar in classified military files. Warnings about species so dangerous that contact protocols were simply marked. Avoid at all costs. Marcus, initiate lockdown protocol 7 immediately, Elena ordered, her voice taking on the authoritative tone she hadn't used in years. But doctor, that's for extreme hostile situations. We haven't even... Now, Marcus. The young man's fingers flew across the console and throughout the station. Blast doors began sealing with mechanical precision. Emergency lighting bathed the corridors in red. Elena pulled up the classified database she wasn't supposed to have access to, her military clearance still active through channels she preferred not to think about. There it was, the Cathara, known throughout the galaxy as the Endless Hunt. They were apex predators who had evolved beyond their home world to become the universe's most efficient killers. They hunted not for food or territory, but for the pure art of the hunt itself. No prey had ever escaped them. No species had ever successfully defended against them. Doctor, I'm reading multiple contacts approaching from the dark side of the asteroid field, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the sensor station. Kim was former military too, which was why Elena had specifically requested her for this assignment. They're using some kind of stealth technology. I can barely get a reading. Elena's mind raced through possibilities and scenarios. The Cathara were here for a reason. They didn't hunt randomly. They selected targets with specific criteria, challenging prey that would provide an interesting hunt. Her blood ran cold as she realized why they might be here. 6 months ago, Elena had led a scientific expedition to catalog life forms on Xerion Prime. What they had found there was a Cathara breeding ground, a sacred site where they raised their young to become perfect predators. Elena's recommendation had led to the site being declared off-limits, effectively destroying generations of Cathara hunting tradition. She had made herself a target without realizing it. All crew to the central hub now, Elena commanded through the station's intercom. This is not a drill. We have hostile contacts approaching. The 4 other crew members gathered in the central hub within minutes. Besides Marcus and Sarah, there was Dr. Raj Patel, the station's chief engineer, and Commander Torres, the security chief. Elena looked at their faces and saw the question they were all thinking. How do you fight something that has never been defeated? The Cathara are coming, Elena announced without preamble. They're the apex predator species. They hunt for sport and they've never failed to claim their prey. Commander Torres stepped forward, his hand instinctively moving to his sidearm. How many are we talking about? Sensors show at least 6 contacts, Sarah reported. But with their stealth capabilities, there could be more. Elena pulled up holographic displays showing the station's layout. They'll come through the maintenance airlocks. They're patient hunters who prefer to isolate and eliminate targets one by one. Our advantage is that they've never faced humans before. They don't know our capabilities. Dr. Patel's face had gone pale. Doctor, perhaps we should try to negotiate. Send a distress signal to the nearest. There's no negotiating with the Kythera. Elena cut him off. And help is 3 days away, at minimum. We're on our own. The station shuddered slightly, barely perceptible vibrations running through the hull. Elena felt rather than heard it, her military training recognizing the subtle signs of forced entry. They were already aboard. Sarah, can you track their movement through the station? Elena asked. Working on it, Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across the sensor controls. I'm picking up thermal signatures, but they're faint. These things are good at masking their presence. Elena moved to the weapons locker, entering her override codes. Inside were standard security weapons, nothing designed to fight apex predators. But Elena wasn't thinking like a security officer anymore. She was thinking like a Marine who had survived impossible odds before. Marcus, I need you to access the laboratory systems. Can you release controlled amounts of the specimens we've been studying? Marcus looked horrified. Doctor, those creatures are extremely dangerous. The Xerion acid worms alone could dissolve through the hull in minutes. Exactly, Elena replied, grimly. The Kythera expect to hunt us. They don't expect us to turn this station into a hunting ground for them. The lights flickered once, then went out completely. Emergency power kicked in a second later, but Elena knew the brief darkness hadn't been an accident. The Kythera were manipulating the station's systems, creating the perfect hunting environment. Commander Torres had armed himself and taken position by the main entrance. Doctor, whatever you're planning, you better do it fast. I can hear movement in the maintenance shafts. Elena's mind was working at combat speed now, processing options and scenarios with deadly efficiency. The Kythera were perfect predators, but they had one weakness they didn't know about. They had never faced a species that could adapt and evolve their tactics in real time. Humans didn't just fight to survive, they fought to win. Raj, I need you to reroute power from the laboratories to the environmental systems. Sarah, can you create false thermal signatures throughout the station? I want these hunters to chase ghosts while we prepare our real surprise. What kind of surprise? Sarah asked, her military training keeping her voice steady despite the circumstances. Elena smiled grimly, and for a moment her colleagues saw not the gentle scientist they knew, but the warrior she had once been. We're going to teach the galaxy's apex predators what it means to hunt a human. A scream echoed through the station's corridors, cut short with brutal efficiency. Commander Torres spun toward the sound, his weapon raised. That came from section... Elena checked her chronometer. The Kythera had been aboard for less than 10 minutes, and they had already claimed their first victim. By all accounts, the hunt should be over within the hour. But Elena Vasquez had never followed anyone else's accounts. She activated her personal communicator, broadcasting on all frequencies. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez of Kepler Research Station. To any Kythera monitoring this channel, you made one mistake. You should have studied your prey more carefully before you started hunting. The response came immediately, a voice like grinding stone speaking in perfect standard Galactic. Human female, we have studied your species. You are adequate prey. Your fear will make the hunt interesting. Elena's smile was cold as vacuum. Who said anything about fear? The station shuddered again, more violently this time. Through the viewport, Elena could see dark shapes moving with impossible grace along the station's exterior hull. The Kythera weren't just inside the station, they were surrounding it. Sarah, how many contacts do you have now? 12. Maybe more. Doctor, they're everywhere. Elena nodded grimly. The Kythera had brought a full hunting pack. They were taking no chances with their prey. Unfortunately for them, they had just trapped themselves in a confined space with a human who had no intention of playing the victim. Everyone listen carefully, Elena said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded troops in combat. We're not just fighting for our lives. We're fighting to show the galaxy that humans don't run from predators. We hunt them back. The real hunt was about to begin, and the Cathara were about to learn why targeting a human had been their greatest mistake. Human ingenuity. Unleashed, Alina moved through the station's corridors with predatory grace, her scientific mind cataloging every detail while her military training kept her alive. The Cathara had made their first mistake by underestimating human adaptability. She intended to make sure it was also their last. The research station had become a maze of death, but Alina knew every inch of it. She had spent 3 years turning this facility into the galaxy's most advanced xenobiology laboratory. Now she would turn it into the Cathara's tomb. In Laboratory 7, Elena accessed the containment systems housing the most dangerous specimens they had collected. The Xerion acid worms writhed in their energy fields, their bodies secreting compounds that could dissolve through reinforced titanium. The shadewing moths from the Vega system could phase through solid matter at will. And then there were the quantum spiders, creatures that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Computer. Authorization. Vasquez 77 Alpha. Release. Controlled specimens into maintenance sectors A through F. Warning. Release of contained specimens may result in station-wide contamination and loss of life. Override confirmed. Execute. Throughout the station, containment fields flickered and died. Elena wasn't just releasing the specimens, she was creating a three-dimensional battlefield where the Cathara would have to fight on multiple fronts against enemies they had never encountered. Sarah's voice crackled through Elena's communicator. "Doctor, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the laboratory sections. What did you just do?" "I leveled the playing field," Elena replied, moving toward the central hub where she had left her remaining crew members. "How many contacts do you still have?" "It's hard to tell. The released specimens are interfering with sensors, but I count at least 8 Cathara still active." Elena paused at a corridor junction, pressing herself against the wall. Her enhanced hearing picked up the subtle sound of claws on metal somewhere above her. The Cathara were using the ventilation system to move unseen, but they hadn't counted on sharing that space with the shadewing moths. A shriek of rage echoed through the air ducts, followed by the sound of something large falling. Elena smiled grimly. The moths had found their first victim. "Sarah, can you seal specific sections of the station remotely?" "Yes, but do it. Seal off sections B and D. I want to funnel them into the laboratory areas." Elena continued moving, her weapon ready, but her real weapons were her mind and her knowledge. She had studied every alien species in this facility, learning their weaknesses, their behavioral patterns, their biological vulnerabilities. The Cathara were about to become unwilling test subjects. In the central hub, she found Dr. Patel working frantically at the environmental controls. "Raj, what's your status?" "I've rerouted power as you requested, but Elena, this is insane. We're not warriors like you and Sarah. We're scientists." "Today we're survivors," Elena replied firmly. "And survival requires adaptation. The Cathara hunt by instinct and pattern. We're going to break their patterns." Commander Torres burst through the sealed door, his uniform torn and bloodied. "Doctor, they got Marcus. 3 of them cornered him in communications. But I managed to activate the emergency beacon before they could destroy it." Elena felt a surge of grief for the young technician, but she pushed it aside. Grief was a luxury she couldn't afford while the hunt continued. "How did you escape 3 of them?" "I didn't fight them," Torres replied, surprising her. "I ran. I remembered what you said about them never facing humans before. They expected me to stand and fight. When I ran into the specimen storage area, they followed, and the quantum spiders—" "Got 2 of them." Elena nodded approvingly. "You adapted. That's what humans do best." The station's intercom crackled to life, filled with the grinding voice of the Cathara leader, human female. "Your tricks are noted, but tricks will not save you. We have hunted species far more clever than yours." Elena activated her own communicator, broadcasting her response throughout the station. "Have you hunted species that turn their hunters into prey? Because that's what's happening to your pack right now." As if to emphasize her point, another shriek echoed through the station, this one unmistakably Cathara. The Xerion acid worms had found their target, Sarah, I need a count on hostiles. Down to 6 confirmed contacts. Doctor, whatever you're doing is working. Elena allowed herself a moment of satisfaction, but she knew the hardest part was yet to come. The surviving Cathara would be the smartest, strongest, and most dangerous. They would also be angry. Everyone to Laboratory 1, Elena ordered. It's time to finish this. Laboratory 1 was Elena's domain, the xenobiology lab where she had spent countless hours studying the most dangerous life forms in the galaxy. But more importantly, it was where she had been conducting her most classified research, biological warfare countermeasures. The remaining crew gathered in the lab while Elena accessed her secure files. Computer, display Project Nemesis, holographic. Data filled the air, showing complex biological structures and genetic sequences. Dr. Patel gasped as he recognized what he was seeing. Elena, this is weaponized xenobiology. This is illegal under 17 different treaties. This is survival, Elena replied coldly. And right now, survival trumps treaties. Project Nemesis was Elena's theoretical work on creating biological agents specifically designed to target alien physiology. She had never intended to actually create such weapons, but she had run countless simulations on how they might work. The Cathara's biology, studied from samples collected at their breeding ground, was included in her database. I can synthesize a targeted pathogen that will affect their respiratory system, Elena explained as she began working at the lab's synthesis station. It won't kill them instantly, but it will level the playing field. Sarah monitored the sensors while Elena worked. 5 contacts now. They're regrouping in Section C. Let them regroup, Elena replied, her hands moving with practiced precision over the synthesis controls. They're about to learn that humans don't just adapt to the hunt. We reinvent it. The synthesis chamber hummed to life, combining compounds in ways that nature had never intended. Elena wasn't just creating a weapon. She was creating evolution in a bottle, a biological response to an alien threat. Doctor, incoming transmission from outside the station, Sarah reported. Elena paused her work. Put it through. The voice that filled the laboratory was different from the Cathara leader, younger, but no less deadly. Human scientist. I am Thekvar, huntmaster of the Cathara. Your resistance has been educational, but the hunt ends now. We come for you directly. Elena smiled as the synthesis chamber completed its work. A small vial filled with an oily, iridescent liquid now contained the product of 3 years of xenobiological research and a lifetime of human ingenuity. Thekvar, Elena replied, you're about to learn why humans became the dominant species on our world. We didn't just survive among predators, we became the apex predator. She loaded the synthesized pathogen into the station's atmospheric system. Within minutes, every air recycling unit in the facility would be distributing her creation. The Cathara's superior senses would work against them as they breathed in the very air around them. All crew, put on environmental suits now, Elena ordered. Full protection. As they sealed themselves into the suits, Elena felt a strange calm descend over her. The scientist in her was fascinated by what she was about to observe. The warrior in her was ready to finish what the Cathara had started. The first signs came within 10 minutes. Through the station's internal sensors, they could hear the Cathara's breathing becoming labored. Their movement patterns changed from fluid and graceful to jerky and uncertain. Their respiratory system is compromised, Elena explained to her crew. They're not dying, but their enhanced physical capabilities are being neutralized. The laboratory doors burst open, and 3 Cathara warriors stumbled inside. Elena saw them clearly for the first time. Tall, angular beings with obsidian skin and eyes like burning coals. They moved with predatory grace even while struggling to breathe, their weapons raised despite their obvious distress. But Elena was ready for them. She had prepared the laboratory for this moment, turning every piece of equipment into a potential weapon. The electromagnetic field generators designed to contain specimens now created a maze of energy barriers. The specimen containers themselves became projectiles launched by the station's gravity manipulators. The lead Cathara, presumably Thekvar, fixed his burning gaze on Elena. Clever. Human. But tricks will not save you. Elena stepped forward, no longer hiding behind cover. You're right, tricks won't save me. But this isn't a trick. This is evolution in action. She activated the final component of her defense, a sonic pulse calibrated to the exact frequency that disrupted Kythera neural patterns. The sound was barely audible to human ears, but to the Kythera it was agony. All three aliens collapsed, their weapons clattering to the floor. They weren't dead, but they were no longer the apex predators who had boarded her station. They were just another species that had underestimated humanity. Elena stood over Thekvar, her weapon trained on his prone form. Your hunt is over, Huntmaster, but mine is just beginning. She activated the station's communication array, broadcasting on frequencies used by Kythera hunting fleets throughout the galaxy. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, human scientist. Your hunt pack is defeated. Your Huntmaster breathes at my mercy. Let this be a message to any who would hunt humans. We are not prey. We are the species that turns predators into specimens. 3 days later, when the rescue ships arrived, they found Elena and her surviving crew alive and unharmed. The Kythera had been secured in containment fields, alive but no longer dangerous. Word of the defeat spread quickly through the galaxy. Kythera, the species that had never failed in their hunts, had been systematically dismantled by a single human scientist using nothing but intelligence, adaptability, and the human refusal to accept defeat. Elena's final report to Earth Command was brief. Recommend upgrading humanity's threat classification from emerging species to apex predator. The galaxy should know what they're dealing with. The universe had learned a valuable lesson. The deadliest apex predators had made one critical mistake. They had targeted a human. And humans, as Elena had proven, don't just survive the hunt, they win it.